Are you a contractor and you think in your head that you have to do everything inside your business in order for it to run properly? Well, this video is all about going over a story that I heard from my life coach that changed my life. So sit back, listen to this story, and it's gonna change your life too. So my life coach had a dad who recently just passed away, which is probably why he was telling me this story, because he was thinking about certain things that his dad taught him throughout his life. And his dad was one of the most hardworking men that he ever knew. And from the sounds of it, I didn't get to meet his dad, but he sounded like a super hardworking guy. He worked at the same company for 40 years, working 60, 70, sometimes 80 hours a week, and he never quit, never looked elsewhere. He was a really loyal, hardworking person. In fact, he was so hardworking that oftentimes my life coach would get calls from his dad's boss and the owners of the company, and they would say something like this: "You need to have your dad take a vacation. We can tell that he's getting burnt out, but we can't get him to freaking leave this place." And when my life coach would talk to his dad about this, every single time his dad would say the same thing: "Well, I simply can't because I do the most important thing inside the business. So if I'm not doing it, then no one's gonna be able to do it and the business is eventually gonna shut down. So I literally can't take a vacation." And over time, people would always be bugging him, telling him, "No, it's okay, we can figure something out." And to be fair to him, he did have a really hard position and a really important position. He worked for a manufacturer and they manufactured dog food. So on this manufacturing facility, they did really high-end dog food too. It wasn't just like normal stuff. And he was the guy, as it was going down the production line, who would have to do all of the final checks on quality. Is this dog food safe? Is it gonna perish? Is it actually to the quality that the company expects in its products? And to make matters worse, he was the only one who actually knew how to do this correctly. He had been there for 40 years, and a lot of the people, even if they had only been there for 2 to 5 years, certainly could not have done the job the same way that he could have done it. And so he felt trapped. And the crazy part is, even though he's not a contractor, this is how we all feel in our business too. We are probably the most hardworking people in our company. We're always the ones that are doing things that we would consider to be the most difficult problems. And we feel that if we're not solving them, then the problems will not be solved. Well, the problem eventually led to him just quitting his job because he couldn't take it anymore. He had plenty of money, plenty of this. He didn't ever really want to quit because he liked his job, but he couldn't stand the pressure and the stress anymore. And instead of taking a vacation, he just quit. And then the story goes a little something like this. My life coach let his dad kind of fester on this for 6 months. And then after 6 months, he went up to his dad and he said, "Hey, Dad, I got a question for you. Hey, and really fast, I just want to let you know I have a webinar coming up on August 13th that is all about how to increase profitability as a contractor through pricing jobs correctly and making sure that you're actually charging for a profit. So if you're a contractor, you're struggling to make money and you're not 100% sure why, or maybe you just want to make more money, I have a free training. Just click the link in the show notes, register, it's totally free. And with that being said, let's get right back into the video. So you know all those years how difficult your job was, like, do you miss it? You know, he was just trying to kind of build up this because he wasn't trying to offend his dad. And his dad said, "Yeah, I miss it. You know, I kind of wish I could go back, but I just can't handle the stress anymore." And then my life coach said something to his dad that made his dad ponder, that made me ponder too. And he said this, he said, "Well, are they still in business?" And then his dad goes, you know, even just that sent off a little light bulb in his head. And his dad said, "You know what? Actually, yeah, they are still in business." And then my life coach said to his dad, he's like, "So I guess all those years that you were telling yourself that the business would shut down, it was probably just made up in your head, huh?" And his dad sat there and thought for a minute, almost looking defeated, just because he realized that he had made a huge mistake. But you can't take back time, unfortunately. And that mistake was that he made up in his head that if he wasn't there, that the business was going to shut down. And now it's proven that it was made up in his head because when he was gone, the business was still operating, it was still functional. And it relayed to me at the time because my business owned me, or so I thought it did. And it is true. Being a business owner, you're probably gonna do things the best compared to any employee. But sometimes we have to give up this illusion in our head that this problem is real and that it is world-ending problem. It's not like a small problem. It's one of those things where we're like, oh my God, if I'm not on the job site with the guys, the job is going to get the job's going to get ruined and I'm going to have tons of refunds and the business is going to go out of business. And what I want to challenge you is, one, either you're not training your guys enough, which a lot of us don't, we fall victims to that. But two, a lot of issues that we tell ourselves are actually made up issues in our head. They're not actually real. And this doesn't just happen with not being able to delegate certain types of jobs, whether it's the work, whether it's the sales, whatever it is that you think that you are the best in the world and it's not possible to replicate yourself. It's also with other things. Like, for instance, if a customer gets mad at us in email and we think that they have a really mad tone, a lot of times we dread calling them to come out with a solution, or we dread meeting them. We try to push it off because we don't want to deal with this huge issue, or at least in our heads, right? It's a huge issue and it's going to be almost impossible to solve. We're going to get sued. The business is going out of business. Oh my God, the world is falling. It's a tragedy, right? That's what we always think. And that's just human tendencies. So don't feel bad about thinking that or feeling that or anything like that. But do you ever notice that when you finally get to actually pick up the phone, or you finally drive to the customer and you go to meet, you talk, and 9 times out of 10, it's actually not a real issue, but your brain told you is a real issue and you were experiencing the moment as if it was a huge problem when you didn't even know yet. And so that is the purpose of me talking about this. It's just to open your eyes, and I want you to sit there and think, is there anything that you're telling yourself about your business or your situation that might be chaining you down, but the chain is imaginary? Like, imagine that. Imagine how many times that we're telling ourselves these things that aren't actually real, but they're holding you back from accomplishing everything that you ever wanted. So that is the gist of the story. Obviously, we can talk about something a lot more practical in the future, but before I even did that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about just challenging you to make sure that your beliefs aren't holding you back, because if you believe something is true, then it is true. And that's the craziest part. So before you change anything, you have to change your belief, which I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it's true. All the years that my life coach would tell his dad and his boss would tell his dad, everyone would tell my life coach his dad, this isn't real. Like, it's okay. You can do this. You can take a break. I'm sure how many of our wives are telling us the same thing. Hey, you don't need to be stressed about that. Don't worry about that. It's not even a problem yet. You know, hey, I'm sure Joe will do just fine at running the crew. You just got to give him the chance. Let him grow, right? How many of us are in that exact situation right now, and the problem may or may not be real, but chances are it's not actually real. It's just in your head. So if you like this video, it would help me out a ton if you could leave a like on the video and subscribe to my channel. It helps promote me in the algorithm, and it helps get this message to even more contractors. So it'd help a ton. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.